you the second set that I made for Coldesi. If you missed the first one, I will put a link to it in the description box below. But this one is for a DigitalHeat FX machine, which is a printing machine that prints the images that can be then heat transferred to shirts or hats or mugs or all kinds of other things. So I have a t-shirt that has the little transfer sheet partially peeled back. I have a mug and a hat and then a transfer sheet, and then I also have the printing machine, the DigitalHeat FX machine, with a sheet that comes in and out of it. So it's 4D, it's fun, it's so cool. I hope you guys like it as much as I do, and don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well. So we are going to begin by drawing a little template to make the machine out of. And so I'm not really going to be showing you much of the background for these nails. I'm just going to warn you guys all up front, this is a very long video. But with that very long video is an incredible amount of information, various techniques, and if you are into nail art, I highly recommend you stay tuned, especially for watching things like how I made the hat, etc., because, you know, it's a whole bunch of different techniques. So there's a lot of information packed into this video. So we've drawn our little template. As you're drawing the template, you know, have an image of the machine that you're trying to replicate really close by so that you can look at it, or even better yet, if you happen to have a machine that you're doing, you know, just copy that. After you have your little template drawn, set a nail form backing over the top of your template, and then you can sculpt all of the little pieces through that. You can see the template through the nail form backing so that you have a good reference for what to sculpt. One thing I always like to mention when I'm drawing templates is that I did do a template live class a little while ago, and so if you are new to drawing templates, new to working with them and creating your own, and you want to know all of my little tips and secrets that I don't share with everybody every single time because I don't have enough time in every video, I highly recommend going back and watching that it was from last, I don't know, January maybe, but that template live class is such a good, beneficial video. And even if you don't really think you're going to make templates, there's just information on assembling pieces like this and this whole making something separately and then putting it together. There's just a lot of details. So if you are interested, there will be a link to that video in the description box below. Also in the description box, before I forget to say anything, I do have the links for all of Coldesi's information. And on my last video, I had a lot of people asking what Coldesi is because it was just the Coldesi logo, and I really didn't give any information on, you know, what this business has to offer. So for those of you who are curious, Coldesi is a company that makes these garment and merchandise personalization machines. So this one that is this DigitalHeat FX, they print this machine, this printer prints the transfer sheets. So, you know, you put in an image and you can print it, which is so cool. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be on a shirt. Like I'll show you eventually, this stuff can also go onto, say, a mug or a hat. So that's such a cool thing. They all have different, you know, options along those lines. They also have a really cool embroidery machine that can embroider things that are so detailed and so beautiful. And if you are just a curious person and you like artsy type of things, and even if this isn't really something that you would be interested in for yourself, I highly recommend you check out their Instagram account anyways. For one thing, they are showcasing my work over the next few weeks in some of their videos on Fridays. They're having a Friday reveal. And so if you want to see my work in a different setting on a different person with different editing styles, go ahead and check that out. But also, watching their machines work is super satisfying. If you're somebody that, you know, just likes to watch things that are very satisfying to see, I highly recommend you check out their YouTube channel, because watching like the process of the different machines working, and like especially the embroidery machine, it's just so satisfying to me to just watch it embroider. It's so cool. So if you have any interest in that, definitely go check that out. And they also have a YouTube channel. So if Instagram's not your cup of tea, you can see some videos of how their machines work in action on their YouTube channel. So after we have all of our little pieces created on the template, and I say all of them, which is not true because we will be going back and you know, adding things as the process goes. When I was making this machine as well as the other ones, it's not a machine that I use. It's not something that is sitting next to me that I can touch and see and feel and immediately know exactly how to create it. I had, you know, a vague idea, but it was sort of a figured out as I went process. So as I was working on this, there was like, oh, yep, I need to go make this. Oh yeah, I need to go make this. So I'll go back to that nail form backing and create more pieces that are required as it goes. Once I have the first part of this assembled, just to make sure that those lines are nice and straight and clean and crisp, I'm going to take my e-file and a flat-edged barrel bit, and I'm going to be filing all of these little areas into shape just to really smooth them out. As you're filing, be careful you don't overfile and accidentally get rid of something important or open up one of the seams that you just glued together. After you are happy with that little bit of filing that you just completed and it's all looking nice and crisp, we're going to go back and we're going to be making some more pieces. The biggest one I realized I forgot is going to be that one that the paper kind of slides up and out of, as far as like, if I don't know exactly how it works, but there's like a second paper tray. So we're going to be making that one that goes right in the middle. After I sculpt the shape of it, I'm going to take the flat edge and I'm going to curl it up with my brush so that it actually will curl down into the machine. But we're going to be just curling it up for now and just kind of, let it set like that. And once it's cured, you're going to glue that into the machine, like I said, with the curve curving down in. You do not want to let that curve go all the way down as far as what the edges of the machine are. It cannot go down that far. If it goes down all the way like that, it'll block your little transfer sheet from going into the machine, into the nail. So you have to make sure that even though it curves down, it doesn't curve down that much. Add some more acrylic to secure everything together. Once it looks good, you're happy with it. Periodically, I recommend holding something up, just holding it up to the nail, each of these pieces that you're making, to make sure that they fit the way that you want to. But once it's done to this stage, we're going to actually attach it to the nail. I'm going to use some poster putty to hold it in position while I'm attaching it. And then, so that poster putty is on the side where the paper is going to come in and out. And then on the other side, so this is going to be towards the tip of the nail where the buttons on the machine are, I'm going to be using clear acrylic to secure it to the nail. After it is just, attached, I'm happy with it. It's straight, it's in the center. Leave that to cure. Once it is fully cured, you can remove that little bit of poster putty and then add some more of your gray acrylic to secure the attachment. As you can see, there are very large gaps on the side. This is another one of those, I need to fix this, or fix is probably the wrong word. I need to make another piece for this. So after you have it, attached a little bit more securely with more of the gray, I'm going to be making more strips of gray acrylic with my nail form backing to go and make a little bridge between those gaps on the sides. I'm going to make 2 of these long bar shapes, and I am utilizing the length of the sides that I already had drawn out on my template, but I'm going to make them a little bit wider. At this point, as you're making a piece like this, excessively wide is better than too thin. So after you have those little pieces made, you're going to glue them in place so that they fill the gaps on the sides of the machine, having it kind of cut down at an angle towards the nail. So it doesn't add any more width. You want it to kind of taper in a little bit. As you are attaching things together, if they are way too wide like mine are and they stick up off the sides, don't sweat it. Actually, that's preferred. And then you're going to secure them onto the machine with more of your gray acrylic onto the nail. Just make sure everything is nice and tight and together. As you are making all of these things fit together, all snug as a bug in a rug, like I said, don't worry about them being too long. If you are somebody that does not use an e-file, try to snip them with a scissors. It'll just speed the process along so that you don't have to do so much filing by hand. And if you've never cut your little thin acrylic pieces with the scissors, it isn't really that difficult. You want to make sure that you're using a scissors. If you do happen to use a manicure scissors for cutting somebody's cuticles, whether that be yourself or a client, do not use that same scissors for cutting pieces of acrylic because it'll dull very quickly. Use an old pair, but you do want to use manicure scissors because they have they're the right size for snipping little bits of acrylic and having the control. But you can, if the acrylic is thin enough, you can cut it with a manicure scissors. However, if you are somebody that likes to use an e-file, just use an e-file. We're also going to glue the little platform arm that the paper or the transfer sheet, when it prints out, it comes up on. So we have that little L shape. We're going to glue that in place. If your nail has gel top coat on it, like mine does, one thing just as a food for thought, nail glue does not like to stick to gel top coat. And so it's one of those, I know that this is the case, so I'm going to try it anyway because, it's just kind of how it works for me. We're going to try it first. Obviously that was not sticking, so I'm going to grab some clear acrylic and I'm going to hold this piece in place and I'm going to make sure it sticks with some clear acrylic behind it and then go through and fix it up a little bit later. And that process is kind of the way that it works the best as long as you can get it to work. However, if you are not a fan of what I just did, you could always scuff a little bit of that gel top coat surface and then it will make it so that the nail glue will stick. Once you have those pieces attached, go ahead, file off the sides, the excess bit on the sides from those little bridge pieces that you made. And now you can start painting your machine. As you are adding the details to this machine, there is so many opportunities to add more or less detail on any kind of a printer like this. So I am definitely not going to skip writing the logo of the DigitalHeat effects. So we're going to start with the word digital, connect the long tail of the G. When you are painting logos, if you are not very confident painting logos, say you've never really done it before, or you've tried with limited success, or you've never done any lettering with a paintbrush, because that's a different experience than doing it with a pen. If this is in any part new and you're then going to try to replicate a logo on a teeny tiny surface like the top of this printer, practice on a piece of paper first or on a practice nail. Don't go straight onto your art that you've been working so hard on. Make sure that you just kind of get a feel for the process beforehand. So I have the digital, then I have the heat effects, and now I'm going to be doing the rest of the little logo that's like the pixelated colors with just first white paint, everything with white paint, and then I'll go through and I'll fix it, or I'll add the rest of the details with the colors. Because I am working on top of acrylic and not on top of anything that is gel, I am using acrylic paint. This is the kind of craft paint that you would find at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or Walmart, Target, any place that has craft supplies pretty much. It's very inexpensive, and I personally believe it paints easier, at least for a lot of things like this lettering. I love painting with acrylic paint. If, however, you like to do everything with gel, before you start doing something along the lines of this and you're doing it on top of acrylic that has not been prepped or smoothed in any way, then you're going to want to apply a layer of gel base coat first. I am also going to be using acrylic paint to start the buttons that are on the front of the machine closest to the tip of the nail. And as you are replicating all of these things, there are so many more buttons that I could have added that I did not, because I had to selectively edit some out. You have to take a balance of how many details can you add before it starts to look too crazy, and how many details do you need to add so that it looks like what you're trying to portray. So there's this fine little balance in there that you have to try to find. Obviously, there's some things that just aren't practical to add in. Like, for instance, if there's any words on those buttons, just skip them. That would just be too much. After I have that done though, on top of the acrylic paint, I am going to be using gel polish to fill in the logo. So the word digital is covered in a beautiful neon ombre, which by the way is very fun to paint. And as you are painting over your little neon ombre there, it will pretty much pick up over the top of the white paint the best, but be careful so that you don't get it where it's not supposed to be. And then going back over with my acrylic paint, I'm going to be adding a little bit of a detailing to that paper feeding tray that's on the very front middle of the machine, and adding just a couple lines and a couple little details. After you're done with that, I'm going to be applying some matte gel top coat over everything just to kind of seal it in. And then we're going to take some glossy gel top coat and put it just over the screen. After that's been cured, then we can take and we're going to put some duochrome powder over the top of the screen so that has a little bit of a color shift to it. And then we're going to top coat that screen again. Once that is done, I'm now going to be making some of those little transfer papers. So I'm going to put a layer of some gel top coat over a silicone mat and let that cure. If your gel top coat is very, very flexible, you may consider doing 2 coats. Once that's done, you can peel it off. Keep in mind it will get thicker as we work because we're going to be adding another layer of top coat and some details to it. But if it is really thin where you can't really peel it off because it'll rip, two coats to start with. I'm then going to take and with a little Sharpie, I'm going to mark off about the size I want my papers to be using that template as a guide from before. And then I'm going to need 3, so I'm going to cut those out from my long piece of that gel material. As you are cutting them out, you can leave a handle to start with, but I would recommend separating them. You can always cut them smaller and to size later. Now you have the fun part of decorating your sheets. So you can do whatever kind of patterning you want on them. You're going to put your patterns and your details on 2 and leave the 3rd one clear. So as you are detailing these, I wanted to use the same colors that are in the Digital Heat FX logo. So that's going to be these really bright summery colors. And because I love bright summery colors, I figured that would just be perfect. Plus, I decided that if I did try to stick with those, I could do a beachy theme. So all of my little extra pieces are going to be in sort of a beach, bright summer mode. To start with, I'm going to just take and make a sunset sun that is done in stripes. So not like a smooth ombre, but a little bit more of a graphic design type style. And I'm going to go pink, orange, yellow, and then finish with blue right at the very bottom as if it were water. And this one is going to be for the sheet that is coming in and out of the printer. So we're going to just add that little bit of blue, cure that, and then with black, we're going to be adding some palm trees. I love palm trees. If you guys have watched my channel for a long time, if you're familiar with me and my style, you know that I love palm trees. Not only do I like painting them and wearing palm trees on my nails, I actually just really like palm trees. And for the most part, when it comes to plants, I am not like a generalized plant person. I really like plants that grow food, but just to have like a house plant, not really my thing, except for palm trees. I just love them. So we've got the little palm fronds and the little black black silhouette of palm trees, and then apply a layer of gel top coat over the top of that, cure it again, and then you can cut it out. If you do not top coat over the top of where you did the little outlines with a Sharpie, you can clean those off with some isopropyl alcohol. So just put a little bit on a piece of paper towel and it'll wipe right off. You'll see me do that a little bit later. Make sure that your heat transfer sheet fits in and out of the printer, and then that nail is done. So next we're going to be doing a t-shirt. And if you are curious about the process of drawing out the t-shirt template, that will be featured in a different video for Cold Essie that will be coming up in a couple of weeks. So if you, like I said, you want to watch me make the template and a few more t-shirts, definitely check for those. So I'm going to take some blue and I'm going to just first try to sculpt the t-shirt shape in as few beads as possible on my nail form backing. And if you do have to use more than one bead of acrylic, try to get them to just like pick them up and put them down very close together. You want the whole acrylic piece to be curing at about the same rate and in the same spot. After you've done the first little, you got the shape of the t-shirt on, then if you want to start working in like some of the seams, you can. If it's too cured, you can always add them later. Once the t-shirt is, still flexible enough that you can manipulate it, but cured enough where you can pick it up and it's not going to stretch or rip, you're going to place that over the top of the thumbnail and press it down so it drapes over the nail ever so slightly. After it has done a little bit of that draping, then you're going to take more of your blue acrylic and you're going to add a whole bunch more details to this shirt just in shape. So you're going to add, the little crevice for where the neckline is going to be, add in stitching and overlaps and layers and anything you can possibly think of to add in that will really sell that this is a three-dimensional t-shirt that looks like somebody could simply pick it up and put it on. So with the tip of your brush is what you're going to be using to add all of those little details and to carve them in and place them in. This particular item to sculpt is one of those that you have to have very good control over your acrylic to make sure that everything is the right texture, that it will work out for you. If you're not very familiar with the different consistency of acrylic and it just seems like this would be a daunting project, make sure that the acrylic monomer that you're using is going to be a slow setting monomer. The one that I'm using is a fast setting monomer, so I can do things very quickly. Usually, sometimes it's too fast, but for the most part, I use a 3D monomer that is specifically made to cure quickly and efficiently. And if you're not quite as experienced with acrylic as I am, then you may want to use one that's slow setting. So I would recommend looking for something that either says traditional monomer or a low odor, or there's even some brands that do offer some that are advertised as a slow setting monomer. After your t-shirt is fully sculpted, then you can go through and you can paint the design directly on it. Because the transfer sheet is peeled up and away from the shirt on this one, partially peeled up and away from the shirt, you want the image to be on the shirt. So it's been transferred, it's been heat pressed, it's on there. And you're just doing that very satisfying process of peeling that plastic backing off, and then you can see the image. So we're going to be painting the image on the shirt. Again, bright, beachy, summery themes. I started out with a orange half circle, then taking the yellow, I'm going to be adding a graphic-y sun going across the front of it. I love all of this styling. This is definitely something that I would wear on a shirt. Anything that's, like I said, bright and summery and palm trees, all over that. I'm going to then add with the blue, which is lighter than the color of the shirt, I'm going to be adding some of the wave type of a pattern down below. If you are wondering, because I am painting with gel polish over the top of raw acrylic, and I recently recommended in this video even that you shouldn't do that, this comes down to knowing your products. It would have gone smoother if I had added on the layer of gel base coat first, but that does add just a touch of a thickness, and I didn't want to do that. So I was weighing, the benefits and the downfalls. If you have a gel polish that is thicker and sticky feeling, it would not work to paint directly on top of the acrylic. If you're using gel paint, it would not have worked to paint directly on top of the acrylic. If your gel polish is too thin and not pigmented enough, it would not have worked. Mine is just the perfect balance of thin enough to go up and over the acrylic, but pigmented enough that it will show up. So it's one of those, you have to kind of know your product, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm now going to take my little piece of material that I'm going to use as my transfer sheet, and I cut it down to size. Then I'm going to spread some jewelry gel over the section of the transfer that I want to still have the piece of the plastic on. And then I'm going to apply some matte gel top coat over the top of the jewelry gel. So the jewelry gel is still wet. After you've applied the matte gel top coat, you're going to place that heat transfer sheet or the plastic sheet, and you're going to press it into your jewelry gel. If you want to, first roll it in your fingers to give it a curve, but then hold it in place there. As you are holding it in place, you're going to grab a curing lamp, either a big one or a little one, and you are going to cure that. You want that to cure really quickly before that sheet accidentally dips onto the gel polish and sticks. Apply some builder gel over the back of your little heat transfer plastic because otherwise it will not hold its shape. So apply a nice little layer of builder gel and then hold it up into that curved position and cure it again while holding it. Don't let go until it seems like it's not going to move at all. Once you are happy with it, it seems fully cured, it's fully set, you don't have to worry about it at all, then you can go through and we're going to do our top coating. So to do the top coating, I'm going to apply a layer of just regular gel top coat over that builder gel that's on the back side of the heat transfer sheet. And then on the other side that was top coated previously, so that one had the top coat when we were first just making the top coat piece, you're going to take matte top coat and you're going to carefully try to paint everywhere that the image isn't. So you're going to mirror image it onto the heat transfer sheet so the background, you're painting the background with matte top coat. Everywhere else you're going to try to leave shiny. It does not have to be perfect, so just do your best. Now on this nail we're going to begin, this is going to be for behind the hat and behind the mug. You're going to just paint a nice little ombre of yellow to pink to blue. Use an ombre brush and wiggle that back and forth a bunch of times. If you have other ombre preferences, you like to use dipping powder, an airbrush, a sponge, however your favorite ombre method is, go ahead and do that. I have not used a brush to ombre very much just in general, so I figured that would be a good way to just give it a try. Every once in a while I like to switch up my techniques just to keep my skills fresh. So we're going to be using that brush to ombre back and forth, brush, brush, brush. Once you're happy with the ombre, go ahead and apply a layer of either matte or glossy top coat depending on the nail. And now we're going to start with the mug just because. So on a straw, we're going to be making a cylinder of black acrylic. Whatever color you want your mug to be, use that color of acrylic. And what I'm sculpting around is a plastic drinking straw. This is the kind of straw that is outlawed in actually more and more places, which I personally think is fantastic. If you cannot find a plastic straw, which I know can be difficult for some people, the best thing you can do besides that is to take a nail form backing and either wind it up around a pen so that you can get a nice tight cylinder, or say around a piece of wire or a pencil, just something that's got that cylinder shape. Just wrap the nail form backing around it, tape it down, and then sculpt around that. Once it's cured, you can slide it off just like the way I'm going to show you to do with the straw. So as you're sculpting around this, make it a little bit thicker and stronger than you may normally, just to make sure that as you're filing it, it can get nice and well shaped. So after it has been fully sculpted and cured, you can slide it off and then take a file, and you're going to want to file this, especially the ends, to make sure that they're nice and straight. But if you want to just be a little bit more of a perfectionist, go ahead and file around the whole thing, all the sides. Back to your nail form backing, sculpt a small circle, set the mug over the top of it to create the bottom, and then next to that you're going to want to sculpt the handle of your mug. So you're going to take a little more black acrylic and sculpt a C shape. If you have an issue with your black acrylic because it doesn't seem to sculpt as well as any other color, which seems to just be a trend with black acrylics, they have to have so much pigment to be opaque that the acrylic texture gets a little bit less desirable. If you find that to be the case and you want to have a black mug, your next best bet would be to sculpt a color that's like either gray or even just clear, and then paint it with black if you wanted to. It's not necessary if you do a black acrylic, but sometimes I personally find it to be a little tedious to use black. After the mug and the handle have cured, you can peel them off the nail form backing, glue the handle to the mug, and then secure it with a little bit more of your acrylic around the side of the handle that was facing the nail form backing, because it'll be very flat. You just want to round it out and make it look the same kind of a comfortable handle shape as the other side. After that's been done and you're happy with the shape of your mug and the handle and everything is peachy keen, then you can go through and we're going to paint the logo just like we did on the machine, the DigitalHeat FX. I am not going to show you painting this logo again because it is basically the exact same thing, the same process, white acrylic paint to start with, and then you're going to be adding the colors with your gel polish that we've been using all along. And since it is the exact same process, I didn't feel the need to show it multiple times. After it is finished painting and cured and everything, then you can go ahead and apply some gel sealer or gel top coat over the mug in different sections. I would first apply just over the top of the outside holding the handle, and then apply it over the handle and over the inside. So you'll be curing this mug twice. After that mug has been cured, I'm going to apply some jewelry gel to the middle of the nail it's going to go on, and then a layer of matte top coat, and then I'll press the mug onto the nail,
And after it has been pressed on, mine just held on really well and I cured it and it was all good to go. Now for the hat, which is like, to me, the most fun part of this entire design because I've never made a hat before. It was a very new experience and I really enjoyed it. Because it is a two-toned hat where 1/3 of the hat across the front of it is going to be a different color, we're going to start with that. So sculpt a third of a half of a sphere inside of a mold. And then after you've sculpted that third of a half of a sphere, then you're going to sculpt the rest of it with black. That's such a funny statement. It's kind of interesting to think about, but that front section of the hat is going to be done with gray, and then the rest of it will be done with black. So try to get those edges nice and crisp and clean. They are what you're going to be using to create the color for this entire design. As you're doing the back of the hat, you do need to have the little adjustment bar, so sculpt that first, and then after you have that, you're going to fill in pretty much everything in that half sphere the rest of the way with black acrylic. If you're wondering where I made or got this mold, I made it out of a 2-part mold putty that is used a lot of times for resin making and soap making. Most craft stores, I would think, would have this particular type of a product. However, if you want to see how I made this mold and know a little bit more about that process, I do have that included in a video from about a year ago that is a Cinderella carriage, so I would recommend you check that out. And if you haven't seen that Cinderella carriage video, it is one that I am really probably the most proud of, or one of the most proud videos I have. That's just a good one. So if you missed it, go and check that out. Also, if you are curious about the mold, it's in there too. So we're going to finish filling in inside the mold. It is a little bit awkward to do just because you don't have the right angle for your brush. So if you feel like your brush is getting really gunky, like you're using the tips of the bristles more than you should be, clean it frequently. After it's done in the mold, and I pinched the mold as it was setting, so I didn't just leave it to be a circle. I held it kind of closed so that the hat would have the elongated shape. You're going to take the hat out, and then you're going to be adding details to it with more of the acrylic paint. You're going to need to add on the seams. You might want to add on some more details to that adjustment strap that's on the back. And there's just little details. You can add some rivets to it if you want. There are different styles to hats that you can go through and experiment with. If you want to add a buckle to the adjustment strap on the back, or add a section that looks like Velcro, or whatever it is that you want to do, you can definitely add more details to it if you would like. I would perfect some of those color changes. So depending on what kind of hat you're sculpting and you're wanting to do, there may be more color changes than what mine has. And then as I'm going over those color changes, I took whatever color the acrylic to start with, so like the black or the gray, whichever one you want to begin with, and I just kind of lined it almost as if I was doing a reverse French and created a little lip, which makes it look more like a seam, which adds more detail to the hat, but it also makes that little transition from one color to the other a lot more precise. So I just started over there, got the line of black on each side, and then I'm going to take the gray and just sort of butt it up to the line of black. And you can use the tip of your brush to sort of just drag down that line to make it a little bit more crisp. And then after you have all of those lines done, you can file this hat. Just go right along the bottom edge and just kind of straighten it out. It probably won't be perfect coming out of that mold, but I would recommend waiting to file it until after you have these other layers of acrylic on it, because it'll be a lot more structurally sound. And I'm going to hold it up to a straw. This is a much thicker straw, and I'm going to be sculpting the bill of the hat. So as you're sculpting this, it is a little bit awkward at first because the hat wants to slide, and so you have to really hold it snugly until it begins to have that acrylic that you're sculpting, the wet acrylic, kind of grab onto it, otherwise it's going to move. And then you may have to kind of lift the corners of the acrylic up and have it touch the edge of the hat. It's a process, and know that it's going to be a little bit awkward just as the way it goes. I tried to decide if I thought it would be better to use a nail form and try to fit a nail form to the hat, and I decided that it wasn't, but just trying to figure out exactly how to get that part to work was a little bit of a trial and error. I'm going to add a bit more acrylic to it just to sort of smooth it out and try to get that transition to look a little less strange. At this point, it's okay if it looks a little strange, because once you file it, it'll look so much better, but just try to get it as smooth as possible. Then after it's been cured, you can take your file, and you're going to want to file the edges to make sure that the bill is nice and straight. You don't want it to be looking like it dips down too far or just is the wrong angle. So add a little bit of filing to this to smooth it all out. And then once that is done and you have filed it, then it's the same process of adding a logo to the front of your hat. Again, same as what I did on the machine, so I'm not going to show you, but then once you're done, apply a layer of matte gel top coat over the whole hat. Add it to the nail with some jewelry gel. So jewelry gel in pretty much the area that you think the hat will touch. Gel top coat over that, and then press the hat down and cure. This one I'm going to flash cure a little bit because it did seem like it was going to wiggle. but then I put it into my lamp to fully cure. The last piece we're going to be doing is going to be another one of the little transfer sheets that I will be showing you with some gel paint. This one is going to go on the middle fingernail, and that is the last piece of this puzzle. I'm going to continue the beachy theme. I'm going to start out with a moon. So for the different kind of ideas that I have through this is I have the big sun with the dolphins, and then I had the sunset, and now this one is more like a moon with some waves inside of it. I just wanted to kind of continue that summer feeling and those bright colors with the black. It's just so intense. I love it. I love the contrast. So we've got the little sun and the moon. We got both. And I'm going to be adding a little bit of white tips to the waves, a little bit of a darkness over the moon or over the sun, just a little shadow on the bottom with orange, a couple little clouds going across the moon. Well, I suppose across the sun, not the moon. And then we're going to be adding a palm tree just like before to kind of keep the continuity so they all look like they go together, like they could be part of a single clothing line. This time, however, instead of doing a palm tree with a black silhouette, it's going to be pink. And the reason for that is that the nail that this is going to be on is all black. And so if it was a black palm tree, it wouldn't show up. Then you're going to top coat it, remove all of the extra gel from the sides. And then, like I said before, you can clean it up a little bit with some isopropyl alcohol. Attach that to the center of your all black nail with some jewelry gel, flash cure, then fully cure, and this set is done. You guys, there is so much happening in this. There is so much detail, so much just crazy stuff. I love it. I love it. I love it. I also love the colors. If you are a fan of this whole palm tree, bright, summery stuff, I can find a couple of videos in the past that I've done. Most recently, though, I did do a hibiscus flower video that is bright and summery and does an airbrush with an ombre. So if you are curious on how that looks, I can put the link to that video in the description box below. And if you have any questions about contacting me for doing some custom work for your business like I just did for Cold Desi, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to talk with you and see what you have in mind. There are so many different possibilities where nail art can be used, and I will see you all next time. Bye!